Hey there, it's Jaden. So my last video about coming out as aroace was in June, aka Pride Month, and it received extremely well. A lot of people said that my video really helped them, so I decided to why not make another one. I want to be more honest on this channel, so why not? The last video I made about it was very short, like 12 minutes tops, and I felt like I didn't really get into every crevice of the story. I did talk about the phenomenon of like faking crushes, which a lot of my peers could understand. However, I felt like that video was more the TLDR of my story. Like, I didn't tell the full story. Not like it takes away from the first video. See, this video is the expansion pack for your Sims 4 game, aka the last video. If you haven't watched the first video I made about this topic, I suggest you do, because you get the meaning of aroace, aromantic, and asexual. If you don't know what that is, and just watch that video, you get the basic logistics and all of that. I also want to make this video because I feel like not a lot of LGBT plus YouTubers talk about this, especially from an aroace point of view. But I really want to talk about experimenting with labels and how that's okay. It's okay to be confused, and that you find out later in life, and also coming back to the closet, but that's saved for last, and just a lot of embarrassing hijinks. So let's start with what's going on under the 10 years of age for my story, because this is like setting up the stage. Of course, at this age, no romance was in the air. However, little things started sprouting. I wasn't thinking about crushes. Little old Jaden was thinking about how they can fight over who's actually Twilight Sparkle. I'm half joking. A lot of the media I watched as a kid was full of cliches. Awkward shy girl gets the guy, the new girl at school, and why do girls fall in love? I was in love with these movies, and it was a lot about love. At a very young age, in this heteronormative world, we are told that you will find that special someone. You just gotta wait. But how long will I wait? I have consumed so much of these hopeless romantic fantasies that this idealistic world that I have consumed and made will soon be shattered by my upsetting reality, but little young Jaden doesn't know that. Now this is where it starts, my preteen years. This is where I found out werewolf mode was, but I'll introduce that in a minute. I had a lot of friends at the time, probably the most I had in a while. That is sad. I had different friend groups and hangouts. My primary one at the time was with social awkward outcasts. Let's be truthful, the mention of romance was an unfamiliar thing. But, that's fine. However, my friend at the time came out as bi to me and said, hey, I support you, and this got me a bit curious. I found some LGBT YouTubers, and I watched that. I was very intrigued, and I wanted to know more. Anyway, back to what I was saying. My really cool friend introduced me to a whole new cool friend group, and I was introduced to a whole nother world. A world super queer, like really gay, and I do not mean happy. I was introduced to a lot of new things, and I felt welcomed. I knew I definitely wasn't straight, but I didn't know I was. I only had one crush, and that was on a piece of code. Literal piece of 10101. And that piece of code was a fictional girl character, which hit too close to home and caused a whole spiral of confusing thoughts because, well, I never liked anyone romantically IRL. And I also never liked anyone fictionally too, until this character. Plus, this girl character was like, a human, So it's not like I could have the excuse of, well, it's an animal, that doesn't exist, or it's insert species, that doesn't exist. Like, I'm totally straight. So, yeah. And after that, I had like a crush on a fictional male character, so it also brought a lot of confusing, thoughts. And idiot me didn't understand that fictional characters don't count. So I went, yeah, I'm not straight, I like both. But after finding out this info, I needed a real-life crush. All my friends had real-life crushes already and were telling me about it, so what do you do when you're still at the starting line at the race? You fake it till you make it. In retrospect, I had no idea what the hell I was thinking back then. Faking it till you make it works with confidence, not love. Anyway, I needed someone to crush on, and there was this cool girl in the group who was just a lot like me, but was funnier and prettier. Let's call this girl Jennifer. I just wanted to say little me had a problem of not understanding the difference between a platonic crush or aesthetic attraction with an actual crush. Well, you can't blame me because I never experienced an actual crush. Other than my fake crush on Jen, I had a squish, which was basically like a platonic crush where you just really badly want to be their friend, and it's neither romantic or sexual, and I just really badly want to be her friend. I told my feelings about this girl to my friend, and she told me, you just probably like her romantically, not platonically. Jaden, what are you thinking? And this made me actually believe that it was romantic until I actually thought of romantic things people do, and if me and her ever did it, I was repulsed by it. Seeing myself, like, holding hands with her or doing anything romantic was gross. Like, walking on eggshells, gross. I was really confused, but when I came to realize it was just a platonic crush, it didn't matter anymore, and I realized that maybe don't listen to what people tell you what it is. You would think that my misguided trip with this other girl would stop me from thinking my crush on Jennifer, but no. I thought if I faked it enough that it could possibly come true, right? No. Hence, werewolf mode was established. During the day, I was like any other average preteen who had a crush. During the night, I would lie in bed, awake, upset that I couldn't feel anything romantic, and the guilt of not being truthful and the start of my internalized queer phobia, or I would call my internalized aphobia, really started to get louder, and I already kicked down the internalized homophobia with the fictional crushes, but the internalized aphobia was a whole other boss that I needed to defeat in this game called Jaden Doesn't Know What Their Sexuality Is. For those who do not know what internalized homophobia or queer phobia is, here is a small definition. From Healthline, the short answer of internalized homophobia is we live in a world where everyone's assumed to be heterosexual unless they explicitly state otherwise. But more than that, we also live in a world where heterosexuality is thought to be the superior sexuality. This messaging, which is both explicit and implicit, could be incredibly damaging to queer people. It often leads to something called internalized homophobia. If you've ever first heard of that phrase, fear not, here you'll learn exactly what it is. Internalized homophobia encompasses the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that arise from the belief that queerness is bad, wrong, sinful, or inferior to being straight. Explains Casey Tanner, queer affirming sex therapist and expert for pleasure product company LEL. By the way, internalized homophobia or oppression can look like in different ways. Like, for example, it could be internalized biphobia and internalized transphobia. Internalized phobias happen when someone in the minority group has internalized society's hatred towards them. And basically, if you're in the LGBT plus community, you can experience internalized homophobia, queer phobia. It's not just explicit to, like, being a lesbian or being gay or being bisexual or trans. Like, you can experience it if you're pansexual or aroace. Hence why I call my internalized homophobia also internalized aphobia, because, well, that's a thing. In practice, like, internalized queer phobia can look like, this. I'll show different examples. Like, a bisexual or bi-curious person could tell them that they're not actually bi, they're just going through a phase. Or a transgender person would say that if I really was trans, I would have known earlier, which, by the way, like, this goes for all queer identities, but just because you figure out later doesn't mean you're lying or it's not true. Like, everybody's journey is different. Hell, it took me forever to find out I was aroace, so yeah. If I'm still valid in my journey, so are you. And it doesn't matter if you came out at 30, it doesn't matter if you come out at 85, it really doesn't matter. Back on topic. Hence my feelings of denial and my punishing myself from what I felt about my aromanticism came to the light in the moon. Luckily, this quote-unquote crush on Jen didn't last that long. I found out that Jen liked someone else, and I ended my crush, quote-unquote crush, there. My friends found it was odd that I got over Jennifer so fast, and I didn't feel any heartbreak whatsoever. By the way, I never confessed to her, or confessed in quotations. I don't think she even knew, and we became friends, and still was until she left the school. Now, you would think what happened was one and done, right? No. Spoiler alert, what if I told you that that was just the start of the hellscape I put myself into? And what's even frustrating is that while I was in werewolf mode, I let the moon shine a little more, and I howled once. It was December, and me and my friends and I went to a trip to San Francisco. Not the same friend group, it was, like, me and a couple people from different, like, friend groups or whatever. It's like a scattered friend group. My other friend, like, organized it. My close friend, who I hadn't talked in a really long time, was there, and after that, we talked again. It was a deep conversation, and we were at, like, a fast food restaurant on a break after a long trip, and our other friends were in at the restroom. We were the only two people that didn't have the need to go, so we were just there at the table, like, drinking our, like, very small sodas. It was late at night. This was, at the time, the guilt would eat me away at my untruthfulness. They told me about them coming to terms about bisexual, and I replied that I could relate to them, just not with bisexuality. My friend replied with, "What?" And I said, like, "I think I might be asexual." They said they supported me, whatever was going on, and then our other friends, like, came out of the restroom, like, literally at that time. This was the last time me and this person talked, and after talking to this person, I finally made that step. I finally made that step of actually confessing, or even just saying, I think I am, or just questioning if I am. And I made that step only to go back to 3. It's kind of like when you're in a math problem and you finally got, like, you're on the right directions, only for you to second guess and go, never mind, I'm just wrong, I'm gonna go and second guess and do a whole nother equation. And in reality, that was, like, the right step for the right answer, and you just screwed it up. That's what I did right there. I went 1 step and 3 steps back. And this wasn't the end of this, like, rinse and repeat cycle. This happened for 3 years straight. And there would be times where I would question if I actually was bi, but I would never even dare to look even more because the answer was haunting. I didn't want to be aromantic and asexual. Now, at the end of these 3 years of my questioning, and ironic enough, I actually came to a conclusion of being aroace because someone confessed their feelings to me. This part is kind of long, but I'm gonna shorten it because I have so much more to say after this. So I'm just gonna give the TDLR. There was this guy who had a crush on me, but I was extremely oblivious to it. Plus, dude was being very weird. Like, he told me he had other crushes, so I thought I was off the table. Long story short, I wasn't. This guy started acting very, very creepy one day, and he later on got his friend to confess his feelings to me. And after a talk with my close friends and understanding my repulsed feelings, I rejected this guy, and I cut him off. And I saw, like, this crack in the mirror. I couldn't hide how I feel anymore. The ugly truth was staring right at me, and it was, I'm aroace. I had this thought pop up too many times, and I needed to accept it. After doing some research, I was positive I was aroace because of everything that was going on. And hey, thank you to that guy who made me realize I was aroace. I mean, that really sucked for you, but hey, it helped me in the end, so at least you did some good. Well, I think you did some good. At least you did some good, even though you did a lot of awful things. Now, it would be a lie that if that was the end of my journey, because in 2023, a year later, in the summer, after I came to my terms about my aroaceness in February 2022, and that pride stayed for a good year and 2 months, I reformed back to my old ways, my werewolf phase. I did it out of fear, and it's okay to come back into the closet, like I did in my werewolf phase. I faked my crushes, and it did me a lot of damage, like a lot of damage. Unlike my fake crush in Jennifer, that did no harm on her, but little harm on me, my untruthfulness this time really bit me in the ass. I got myself in a toxic relationship due to my lying, not just with myself, but with another person. I do put some blame on myself for lying to this guy that I liked him, but our relationship was very unhealthy and inappropriate because he was way older than me and he shouldn't be having a crush on a 14-year-old. That was really gross and creepy. This guy was way older than me, by the way. Long story short, I was groomed, and I kind of still blame myself for that because I lied. I didn't even like him. I really didn't. And after that hell of an experience, I feel that really confirmed for sure I was aroace because I felt no love in that relationship. That I felt zero romantic feelings to this guy, and I felt nothing with those crushes I faked. I'm not going to go much into detail about this 9-month hell because it's extreme. It was an extremely traumatizing and sad time. I was in the sad ouchie ouch aroace closet. And I believe that that time, that 9-month period, was so much more harsher than my 3-year phase. Hell, even after being in that toxic relationship, I lied about having crushes. And I even lied about being in another romantic relationship. Like, I literally lied to my friends, yeah, I'm doing better now after that guy. I have, like, a girlfriend now. And I was trying to do that, trying to get over that, like, toxic relationship. Sometimes I feel like my story isn't invalid due to that 9-month trial. This year in January, I picked up a book called Loveless, a book about a girl exploring her Aroace Identity, which is also written by someone who's aroace. I decided to read it because it was a really low point in my life, and I just needed something that I could relate to. Just something in secret, something I can just do by myself. And I read the book, and I could seriously relate to the main character, like painfully relate. And I was reading it at my school, and one of my friends saw it in my hand, and she asked me what I was reading, so I let her read the synopsis. And this book being caught in my hand says a lot about me. And I decided to say the words. The same words I said at the fast food restaurant. But I'm not going to take one step forward, I'm going to take a leap. I said, I really like the story, I relate to the main character. So, you're aroace. Yeah, thought so. I know I have been untruthful about my sexuality. I lied about having crushes, but I did to fit in. It cost me a lot, but I'm trying to be truthful. My other friend chimed in, and she said, to be truthful, too, I knew that you faked your crushes. I just didn't want to say anything. My friend agreed to what my other friend said, and as much as that seems like a bit mean what my friend told me, it made me feel better. It affirmed me to feel better, because I don't know how it made me feel better, but it just did. And then they asked me to tell my story and what it's like to be aroace. I have not felt that pride and happiness in a really long time. Felt like February 2022 again. I felt the need to share my story because of the hatred and loneliness I went through and felt for so many years. And if it's not to help someone else who's aroace, hopefully someone else in the queer community can relate to this too. I made so many stupid mistakes, got trapped in my web of lies, and continued to stay in the cage that I kept myself when the key was right there. Maybe it was because I was scared of the freedom the answer would give me, or maybe it was just something else. Your story is still valid if you stayed in the closet for a long time. Your story is still valid when you actually thought you were something else. Your story is still valid if you dabbled in different labels. Yes, I am sometimes still frustrated at my younger self, but the thing is that the cards were not in my play. There is barely any aspec representation, and the aspec representation I consumed when I was younger was god-awful negative betrayals of us. And to be truthful, even though I have defeated the hardest parts of my journey, I still experience internalized phobia. Time to time, I still feel insecure in my sexuality, and to be honest, I still wish I had that same gloatful pride I had 2 years ago. Hopefully I can regain that pride back, but I probably won't in some time. I wanted to share this truthful but upsetting story because I'm tired of the queer community trying to one-up each other with their queerness. I'm glad that you found out sooner or never came back to the closet, but some people are not granted those privileges. Every experience is valid, especially mine, that is extremely painful. I still experience these awful thoughts about even my own story. Messy, upsetting, and repulsive, but when is queer history not? I also wanted to share this story because I feel like people have been talking about coming back in the closet, especially here in America, due to the mean orange man that's coming back in office. So, yeah. But with an orange angry man in office who is a lot like the mustache man, I'm still gonna be loud of who I am. And after going through that 3-year, 9-month hell, I'm not coming back. We're not going back. We're not. And I hope you enjoyed this video, even though this was extremely painful for me. So, bye. Subscribe, maybe.